Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Glad you're here. And as you see, we'll have a presentation. And during that presentation, and you're in chat, just put question in. Mrs. Steve will get those questions in order, and I'll answer them after the presentation. And as always, while you're in chat, be respectful of families, mods, and each other. And let me get this thing where I can see it. There we go. All right. Tonight we're going to be talking about the all the information that's come out about that Kohberger has an alibi, and that he, goes out and rides alone, and that's going to be his alibi, and he's not in the area. And so we're going to look at what that means and how I would look at the case if someone told me that this is the alibi they're going to be presenting into the court. And there's going to be a lot of other law enforcement officers out there that will do the exact same thing. And there'll probably be others that look at in different avenues. But we can only cover one approach at a time. And so we're going to be looking at some of the things and thoughts that I've had about this alibi and what we have to consider. And with that being said, we'll get started here. Of course, if you have any information regarding this crime of the homicides of Madison, Kaylee, Ethan, or Zana, absolutely make sure that law enforcement has that information, and so that justice can be found for them. But as we speak about alibi, and we've had several different shows about different aspects of Kohberger's alibi and why this is such a key point for the defense to pursue, for the fact that if they can put him anywhere else other than at the crime scene where the homicides occurred, then of course during those critical, and it's a very narrow window of opportunity as we look at it time and time again, and with the new videos and certain images that have been debated out there of the vehicle driving through the neighborhood, that every time you look at it and you see that that there was a vehicle matching the description, similar to what Kohberger owns and possesses, and is assumed the vehicle that he used that night of the crimes. That through those few minutes and what would have occurred in that residence, in those two bedrooms upstairs and then on the second floor, that you would expect, of course, that there would have been a tremendous amount of DNA transfers from body fluids, blood, otherwise, from the victims onto the offender. And I expect that, and I still expect that did occur. And what measures did he take? And for the fact that certain things had to occur for that to happen. And now that the defense is claiming that there's none of that in his vehicle, that makes his alibi even more important, for the fact that if we don't have any direct link of evidence from the crime scene to his vehicle and from the digital footprints of whatever type of devices he's using, the cellular signals and the pings, that if they can put him outside the circle of where the crime was committed, that it's impossible for that drive time for him to be in these two locations, then of course it's going to be huge. And that's what the defense wishes to bring to the table. Will they be successful at it? We'll have to see. for the fact that law enforcement, they made certain claims that um, that Kohberger often went out and took these late night drives. And when you first look at it, you think, okay, what does that mean, and how can the defense use it? But not only can the defense use that he goes out and takes drive, from the law enforcement perspective, that if you told me that we had an individual that committed these homicides, and he quite often went out and drove around during a certain time period late at night, and that his um, behavioral pattern, that he's a psychopath, uh, that has a certain criminal background or history, or uh, substance abuse, that I would look at that and say, okay, why would an individual wake up in the early morning hours and take solo drives? And from my experience of individuals that are out there driving during those morning hours, there are different reasons that certain people out there, and not all of them are just for looking at the stars. And Because certain people will visit certain parts of towns for certain encounters, to purchase certain items, but there's also even the more sinister individuals that you'll have out there that will go into some of the residential areas, and the voyeurisms, and but then, you know, is that something that certain individuals may have that be part of their fantasy world? Absolutely. Um, and there's a lot of things and a lot of characteristics and indicators of certain offenders that are part of their lives. And at face value, the defense says, yes, he's just out there enjoying life, riding around during those early morning hours, fresh air, low traffic. And if the defense can bring that to the table and convince that jury, or just one juror, of that, then of course it's something that um, um, they will absolutely attempt to do, and therefore put him outside that critical zone that he could have been in two places at one time, and that he just enjoys going up into the mountains and staring at the stars. Do I think that's the case? No. Some of the individuals I've messed with, and as you'll see as we go into this, and of what these individuals in these early morning hours are doing, because there's certain things that happen throughout, and it's common in almost every state, about certain activities after midnight. The individuals are going to certain restaurants here in the South. It's huddle houses. Everybody goes to the huddle house. So they leave those bars and they go from the huddle house and then they'll go home. But even though within those huddle houses, you'll have other people there also that may be there for other reasons. They're looking for certain target opportunities. And so we have to see if that's a possibility. But anyway, when we look at Kohberger, and we have to be extremely mindful of what 2:47 a.m. means, because I looked that up, and from my law enforcement background and knowing about the service of alcohol and what time bars close, and what is the opportunity for domestics and issues about what happens in that type of environment late at night, from arguments and people breaking up and people being intoxicated, and their sense of awareness is lower. And for the fact that if Kohberger is guilty of these crimes, and he is a predator, predators do what predators do. They go out and they will make use of everything that makes them a gives them an advantage, whether it being the low light conditions, uh, or that the victim may have lower senses uh, due to intoxication or otherwise, and that we're waiting for that opportunity to seize upon it. And is that part of what predators do? And you can look at predators, not just man, but throughout the animal kingdom, that they'll use certain parts of their environment um, to achieve whatever their goal is, because that's all predators do. They achieve that goal. Um, and you can talk to any hunter of why do you hunt in certain places, uh, because that's where the prey is. Um, and these predators, when they're human, is even more dangerous because the prey is us. It can be that single individual, lonely female walking down the street, or it can be someone that he has seen before that he's targeted and is tracking, and such as what BTK said, that he may have had multiple targets at any one time. And is that what these individuals do? Absolutely. Some of them do. And they'll go to those areas of where they know that there's that prey enriched areas. And can it be a food truck? Can it be someone that we've seen before? Is it, there's so many aspects of how these predators operate that we have to look at. But like I said, I want you, the 2:47 a.m. is just something that stood out to me. And we'll be getting into that in just a minute. And then, of course, the phone did not report back to the network until 4:48, which when it did come back online, it's on the opposite side of where the crime scene occurred. When the phone went offline, it's on one side of the crime scene. When it comes back online, it's on the opposite side of the crime scene. And for what reasons? Of course, the prosecution is going to say it's for one simple reason, that from the point that he identified and he had made a decision to commit certain crime, that he went off the grid. And then after the crime was committed and he had taken whatever steps to eliminate any type of evidence, trace evidence or otherwise, that could have linked him to the crime, he came back on the grid. And that's what the prosecution is going to say. Now, the defense will bring it up that, well, his phone simply either power or whatever shut down, or he accidentally turned it off, or he normally does this during his nighttime drives. And from the law enforcement perspective, it's you embrace it. Whatever the defense throws up there, that you say, okay, this individual goes out and drives at these late hours. Well, why is he driving at these late hours? What opportunities are out there? And does he keep journals of stars? And is that what he's about? Does he write poetry about night animals? I mean, is what interest does he have within the dark? Because the scenic abilities of going out and enjoying anything scenic, sometimes from mountainsides, there are certain things as far as city lights that can be. And of course, is that what he's going to claim? I would expect that he's going to, from that certain overlooks and things, that he will proclaim or try to get in whatever fashion he can. That's why he's out there. He enjoys those night drives along the mountainsides, overlooking the cities and the universities. But from the prosecution side and from the law enforcement side, we're going to take the dark side. That no, you're not out there after 2 a.m. For the enjoying the skyline of the cities and towns and the lights. That you're out there for a far more nefarious reason. But of course, we have just during the time frame of when it's his vehicle is seen in, or a vehicle matching his vehicle is seen in the area of similar make, model, color. And of course, it's noted that it's driving through the area numerous times, 4 or 5 times it's been spotted. if these cameras are accurate, and this is actually his vehicle prior to him committing the crime. And if we go all the way to the 407 to, when they say that the other end of the crime and when he left the area in the 425 area time frame, that, you're looking at less than 20 minutes that this individual would have had time to park his vehicle, get out, achieve the crime, achieve his goal, get back to his vehicle, and leave the area. Is it possible? Absolutely. But we just have to look at it and weigh it for what it is. That, okay, now that we've committed this crime, what is our follow-up? What happened? Where did he go? Why did he turn his phone back on? And is this normal procedures? Because if this is the only time that the defense, when they bring in that, yes, he commonly went out and drove. He went out 2 or 3 times a week, and he was there for months. And so, if he's driving 2 or 3 times a week, 10 times or 12 times a month, he's been there several months. You're looking at 40 or 50 occasions that he may have taken late night drives or more. And from those nighttime drives, how often did he turn that phone off? And at what times did he turn that phone off? And from my purpose and my interest in it, I would look at that. Okay, if he did routinely turn his phone off, why? What is within that driving distance of when his phone was turned off and when it came on, and what type of crimes are occurring during those critical moments? Because it may not just be that he's committed other homicides, but there's other possibilities of certain crimes that can be committed. And we'll look at some of those crimes and some of the tendencies of some of the individuals I ran across in my career, of some depraved minds of what people will do late at night after, bars close and lover lanes get occupied, or people go to restaurants, or people go home after the bars close, and what can occur and what these individuals will do. And because I've answered calls from crimes from similar things as far as night stalkers and people that would go in and physically touch women within their homes. They'd go in after a night out, come home, and wake up with someone standing at the foot of their bed or alongside their bed. Or they'd come home and there'd be an individual in their home, and absolutely terrify them. And they'd call us. Luckily, more times than not, nothing occurred other than that. But you know that you're dealing with an individual that has the potential to escalate into a far more dangerous crime and evil. Because, like I said, there's a lot of sick puppies out there, and we have to look at them. And is this something that he was doing? And was he escalating prior to, during these other drives? And that's what we're going to look at. When his phone came back on, that was something that is extremely interesting to me. That they said it was on Highway 95 near Blaine, Idaho, which if you went all the way to Blaine, it's 9.1 miles. But if it's over at 95, you're looking about 3 miles less, so around 6 miles. And they said it takes, with light traffic, somewhere around 22 minutes. I guess that would be due to what the posted speed limits are. And so even at that, if you take a third of that off, you're down to 14 minutes, which still gives him some minutes, a few minutes to clean up and otherwise that could have happened after the crime. So the prosecution is going to bring this timeline into the case. That, yes, when his phone repinged, and we have the witnesses says that this is when she saw a certain individual leaving the crime scene, and it's at a certain point, and we have the DoorDash driver's time, and we have the most importantly, the greatest piece of information is what the cameras will show of when that vehicle left the area. And the probable cause affidavit is going to rely heavily upon when that vehicle left. And what is the time frame from that to the time point of when that phone pinged? And we have two known locations of when the vehicle was seen at next to the residence and when it pinged 6 miles away. And those times and how accurate do I think that law enforcement's gone out there and checked those pings? Yes. And how accurate they are and how many tests did they do other than just, uh, I think they're going to we're going to see something a little bit more um, professional on this level, because we see sometimes where people that's not qualified may go out and do certain testing and have no ability to go ever into court and be proclaimed an expert. I think we saw that especially in the uh, South Carolina with what was the Murdoch case. I've got so many cases on my mind, but with the Murdoch, we had an individual that went out and was testing cell phone data, and of course, he wasn't an expert, and it didn't make it into the court. But I think that won't be the case here, or hopefully that won't be the case. But one of the things that happens in a lot of states across the country, and I looked it up, is that generally around 2 a.m., a lot of states close down their alcohol sales. And I even looked up at Moscow and what their own premise services of alcohol and 10 to 1. And of course, we know we have the food truck stuff, but in that the beer and wine can be from 6 to 1 also for Moscow. Then there's certain dates that's prohibited on. But the 2 a.m. and this is our witching hour in law enforcement. Most all the are not the majority of calls. Majority is a far better word of problems that arise in law enforcement is going to be starting around that 2 a.m. That's when these bars are in or 1 a.m. It depends on what your local laws are. That you may start having these individuals where they leave these establishments where alcohol is served, and you'll have these predators, because you can look across the country and you'll see where there's been a lot of victims that were taken advantage of because due to whatever intoxication that they had, whatever that level, the lower sense of awareness of the situation, getting into the wrong car, thinking that it's their Uber driver and it's not. We've seen those terrible crimes that have committed, and there's predators out there that look for those situations and circumstances. And is this what the 2 a.m. nighttime drives are? That's the part I would embrace from the law enforcement perspective. That if I'm looking for a predator, I'm looking for when would a predator most likely find victims that he's targeting, and that's what this is all about. Is that's what we have to focus on, and all the people out there that see this and everything, be aware of that. That absolutely at these establishments, and not just for yourself, but for others, realize that there's predators out there that will absolutely focus and target certain businesses, establishments, and it's not always just bars. It can be markets and food centers, and they do it for certain reasons. That they're out there, and they know that through past experiences or they've learned it in prison that this is the place that if you're a certain individual, type of individual, and you're looking for your prey, where can I find it? And from the law enforcement part of it, we look at we're after the predators. The predators are after the next stage of and looking for their prey, um, and it's just a stairwell of predators. Because law enforcement, Was I a predator? Yes, absolutely. I absolutely went out and whatever I looked for the criminals, and that went out and would either go in and would harass and stalk, um, whatever their intention was. Because we did stakeouts of all different types of individuals. Some of them were of the depraved minds that were committing certain types of assault against women, that we would go out and look at. And then, of course, you have other crimes and whatever it was. When law enforcement puts these stakeouts and sets these stakeouts up, it's for the fact that we're trying to find the criminals, and we're just trying to be the big fish in the in the pond at the time.
So is that what you did at the Waffle House?
Yes,
Hmm, just checking.
I look for the troublemakers.
At the Waffle House.
Yes,
And you did find your fair share.
yes, yes, yes. That way, I didn't have to go work the domestics when I got home.
Oh.
Yeah. So yes. All right. But we have to look at, like I said, the 2:47 a.m. and what can occur, and what do people that, if he is the offender they say he is, and what was he doing out there between the after during that magical witching hour of when these predators go out, and some of the things that motives for the drives that in my career that I saw these individuals, regardless of what level of criminal they were. Some of them were absolutely um, maybe not on the same level of Kohberger, although there was a few. But you have them that's out there, the substance abuse, they're looking for the drugs, whatever. But they're also looking for others that may be in the areas that are also um, they're trying to find those illicit drugs, and they're trying to find someone that might be intoxicated and undefense. They don't have the abilities to defend themselves, um, and then you have it. Whereas the voyeurisms, he may be going to lovers' lanes, or he may be targeting certain households, because we had certain neighborhoods at certain times where you would have these individuals that would sneak into these houses at night, and they would be geographically located and situated within certain areas that the offender lived, whereas he could walk and get back home. And there was numerous of those of where they would go into that. But some of the ones for the lover lanes, of course, it would take transportation. And some of the outer residential areas, which are, you can't park in a lot of places, but um, within the area of where he lived, was there in Washington State, was there certain acts and certain crimes being reported? Law enforcement will look at that. But for far as looking at and embracing that he drove around, was he driving to some of these lover lanes and possibly for the voyeurism and possibly even targeting, that he sees something or he identifies someone, and then he simply sets back and follows them home. There's so many different ways that these psychopaths can target individuals, and it's such high risk for certain areas to you to visit and go to. But also, was he going to certain parts of town uh, and looking for escorts or people that are being trafficked? Um, there's all these possibilities of what the motives for the drives could be. Not saying that's what he did, but from the law enforcement perspective and what I saw, this is what you see a lot of these people in these late hours, especially solo males out there driving around. But there also is a opportunities that we see so many of these offenders sometimes riding around, and they may pick up that lonely hitchhiker or that female that's walking um, on a street, or may see, how many cases are out there where there's an individual that is seen walking down this busy street, and then they'll go into a less populated area and they're never seen again because someone's seen them, identified them, went up and set up an ambush, and absolutely just made them disappear. And then, of course, you have other areas that are more well lit and things. Some of your markets that stay open 24/7. Predators will go there. Been there, seen it. and from everything from robberies to some types of depraved attacks as far as um, man versus woman. Um, but they can go in there and they will absolutely target these individuals. And it's, is this some of the motives? Yes, for what those late drives could be. Absolutely. Do I have, I'm just speculating from the law enforcement and my background of how I would look at it and look up crimes that have been committed during the times, because his attorneys have put it out there. He did this often. He went out and he took late night drives. Okay. Well, let's go see what he was doing during those other late night drives. And was it part of that targeting on this uh, King Drive? Yes, some of it would have been, but was it other areas also? And so that's what we'll have to look at. But predators, there's not a predator anywhere that doesn't try to achieve whatever their goal is. And we have to remember that these people, these individuals, these psychopaths that are these serial offenders, they're going to do everything they can to achieve their goal. And they plan it. And sometimes they're successful and sometimes they fail. Luckily, his failures of being able to conceal certain aspects of this crime has led to an arrest. But would that have been the case, such as we saw with the Long Island serial offender? That no, he was very. He achieved a lot of victims over many, many years. But anyway, of course, we had this visual aid that shows everything that eventually led to the burglary and 4 counts of homicide that has led to that. But just wanted to bring up these points and to just bring awareness to everyone that learn from this experience that these individuals are absolutely evil and predators will take and achieve their goals at all costs. All right. We got any questions?
You do.
All right.
All right. Hold on 1 second. Multitasking. All right. We got some blue lights coming.
All right.
Just got to go find them. This is a little new.
What's going on?
Well, they're starting to show up in my
Okay.
in my thingy. I don't even have to
The
star
Google,
them.
the thingy on the Google
The
machine.
thingy is doing it for me. So now I just got to go find where they put them things. So here we go. And I have to say, Bulldog Mom mentioned that I like the Bulldogs. And you are absolutely correct. 110%. I am so ready for September the 2nd. And that is a Saturday. So I may or may not be here. All right. And then Bulldog Mom, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate your support. Absolutely. Awesome.
We sure do. And I love the name. All right. And from Miss Haley.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. State. Hope all is well for the most adorable couple ever. Much love to both of you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Isn't that sweet?
It is.
All right. Now, Miss Haley has an anniversary. Look at here. 2 months.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And she agrees with Ruckus. I'm not sure what that is.
I don't have any. I have no idea what Ruckus.
And Ruckus is in your chat.
Okay.
All right.
Stay safe, Ruckus. Don't break anything, bud.
Oh, yeah. He's got your question in here. All right. And
Rottweilers. Love you guys and your awesome eyes. Really enjoy your content, Mrs. Steve. You are an absolute delight.
Oh.
Mr. Steve, you have the most adorable, cute laugh. Keep up the great work, guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I gave Mrs. Steve some of my baby pictures today.
Oh, and I got pictures to show. We might have, where's the camera? We might have to do a little slideshow on these. You're going to have to blow these up.
Yeah, that was early in my career.
Oh, he was just a baby. All right. And Miss Kamala.
Oh, she wants the blue light.
She loves that blue light like I do.
Absolutely.
That's my fave. All right. And Miss Miranda Lee. Member for 5 months.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Miranda Lee.
You gonna read it?
I love this channel. Thank Mr. and Mrs. Steve. You're both amazing. That's very nice and very kind of you to say. And
Thank
appreciate
you
your
so
support.
much.
Means a lot to us.
And
Awesome.
Miss Angie.
Member for 2 months. Great show as usual. Steve and Mrs. Steve. Thank you, Angie.
So we appreciate that. And then I gotta know.
$2. It says, could items on the courtroom table become weapons? They'll have, yes, but there's precautions made and certain things that, as Kohberger comes into the courtroom, there's a lot of systems that can be used. And one of these days I'll share an absolutely hilarious courtroom encounter of where we had a man that was in court for homicides. And the first thing the defense attorney did when he came into the courtroom was arm the defendant. And it almost caused a bad scene within the courtroom. But everybody laughed about it afterwards. But that'll be in the future when we have story time one of these days.
All right. So now I'm 32 chats behind.
Okay.
So let's get the questions rolling. All right. So Josh, the posh. This alibi means he is not contesting that the surveilled vehicle is his and that he is driving it, right?
Well, I don't know. They may or may not. But what law enforcement will do is that they will absolutely ping his phone and whatever cameras are out there that show that he's within certain areas. And if he comes up with some alibi that says, so-and-so, this tower is where I was at, or whatever the ping, and this is location, law enforcement prosecution is going to have the ability to say, no, this is where his vehicle and where his phone, when it was active, of where it was pinging. But no, I don't know. Do I think that law enforcement has more evidence about him in that vehicle? I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping it's just not a white vehicle that's within a 2 or 3 year time span of models, because the defense is absolutely going to eat up that the people that identified that vehicle in what year. They're going to hold them to task that you said it was this, and only at this point did you change it to this once you found that their client Kohberger owned a different year. And so some of those experts will have a hard time on the stand for a little bit.
Hold on.
All right. But I think that he will be contesting that this is his vehicle. If not, I think I'd hire some different defense attorneys.
Okay. There you go. Let's see here. Josh is gone. All right. And Slapstick. What about his DNA being found on the knife sheath? How did it get there if it wasn't him?
Oh, I'm on your side. I believe he was there. I believe that was him. The defense are going to say that DNA doesn't have a timestamp. That yes, he was at the house at one of the other parties at some point. They'll embrace it. That's what attorneys do when they're given a certain fact that just because this DNA is there, how do you prove that Kohberger was never in that residence? How do you know that this knife wasn't in the residence for a long time and was given to him, or that Kohberger was at a party and seen the knife? Not saying that's what's going to happen, but I do expect that the defense will embrace anything and everything and say, yeah, sure, he was there at one point in his prior months. And it's going to be an interesting argument.
Okay. And Calamity Colleen, who shuts her phone off for just part of their leisurely overnight drive?
Criminals.
Okay.
When criminals are out there
Quickie.
and they've reached a target area, and he may have been out there, and that's why I'm saying that he had a target area for this night. On his other drives, if he turned his phones off on his other drives when he's out there, that's what I would look at. Where was he at? Where was he at on previous night drives? And if he turned those phones off, where did he turn it off and where did he turn it on? And what areas are in between those? And what crimes can occur within those areas during that critical time frame? Because they saying that he did, but it's a no-win situation, really. I think the defense has painted themselves. I would look at it, I would embrace it from law enforcement standpoint that, oh, absolutely. If this is the only time he ever turned it off, yes, we're going to use it as key evidence that he is the offender and targeted these victims. Uh, uh, and then if he turned it off on other occasions, yes, this is why he's looking for these things, voyeurism, escorts, opportunity of targeting individuals, and that's what I would embrace from the prosecution side.
I don't see that. All right, and from Josh, he's other nights taking this drive. Did he turn his off on and return in the early morning?
Yes, and that's what I was talking about. Yeah, they're going to look at that and see if on his other drives if he did that. Exactly what I was referencing in the last question. And
Not
but
bad.
but he did also, like you said, he returned, and which will be a key thing that if he did commit other crimes and did turn his phones off on other nights, and then they have this other detail that, oh, he goes back and looks at what he accomplished the night before. Are there other crimes, and where they they'll look at that pattern, because if that is a pattern, that's a key pattern that law enforcement will be able to use his cell pings against him, and they'll absolutely embrace it. Absolutely.
Okay. And Lulu Flowers. Totally, Steve. Why did he put airplane mode on his phone? Is that something is always do when he goes out for his late night drives?
And that's what I'm saying is they're going to identify that, and if it is, then absolutely it will come back to haunt him. I believe, for the fact that I don't think that he was just out for nighttime drives. If this is something that he commonly did, he was targeting. If he's the individual they claim he is, he's not out there enjoying the skyline. He's out there preying as a predator. He searching, identifying, and then probably more than one occasions acting.
Okay, we've got some blue lights in here. And it is 63 Clocks donated 5 memberships, and
Thank you.
Kamala Norris donated 10.
Thank y'all. Appreciate those
Thank y'all
memberships.
very much.
Means a lot to me, and I enjoy our members on Sunday and Wednesdays.
All right.
Absolutely enjoy those times.
And this is priceless. You remember when you were talking about the nighttime and what people see and the city lights? Josh the Posh.
Well, I think I think it would be that. I guess it would be in certain areas if you lay
Is there a
down and look at the
skyline?
water tower. Yeah, the skyline. But I guess if you're on the mountainside looking down into the bowl, I don't know. I'll have to look at what the proper term. Somebody in chat will probably be able to tell me that if you're on a mountainside looking down at the lights, what that is versus skyline. It would be.
Looking down on the city lights. I don't know.
I'm sure there's a term for it.
I feel sure. All right. Question. In Idaho, they are using this alibi defense. Can they also use the quote, some other dude did it defense?
Sure. If it's there and there's evidence, because I think there's currently some unidentified DNA that has been documented. And of course, like I said, everything would be brought to the table and nothing would be taken off the table until it's taken off by the courts. And so I expect that, yes, you are absolutely correct, Kamala, that some other dude did it is going to be a key part of it also. Not only does our client have an alibi, he's out riding, enjoying the darkness, and some other dude with this unknown DNA profile entered the house.
So it might be the skyline. Anna says that Moscow is kind of down in a valley.
Uh-huh. But
So
yeah,
there you go.
yeah, I just don't know what the proper term of. I'm gonna have to look at that.
Can't tell you.
I don't either.
All right. And Ruckus at Steve, do you think I could keep up with your grandson when it comes to tearing things up?
No, I'm gonna be telling him and making songs up about you, um,
Oh,
uh, and your abilities. You're a legend. There's nobody on your level.
priceless. So he beats you?
Oh yes.
Oh, wow. That says something, Ruckus, just so you know.
Anything downwind of him can break.
Oh, Lordy. All right. And from Curtis, it makes no sense to even turn it off during a late night drive. Why would you? It's going to be hard to convince the jury that you had a reason to even do it.
Oh yeah, that's all I said. I think they by him.
I'm with him.
Yes, I think they painted themselves into a corner that they're going to have to. That why would you do this? And it's a win-win. I really do. I think the prosecution is going to make great hay with this if it's brought up. Just because they say they're going to, they may look at it and say, "Uh-oh," because the jury currently, we don't know who the jury will be and what they will get to hear. Uh, right now, there's just motions and they're seeing what possibilities can be presented to the court. Doesn't mean that that's going to happen because they may say, "Oh, we really don't need to paint ourselves in this big of a corner because the prosecution is going to eat it up."
All right. And Chevy Metal says he's tougher than woodpecker lips. So I would think that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. And from Miranda, I wish every crime had this level of law enforcement involvement. At True Crime Web, why do some crimes get more attention than others?
I don't know. Could it be just to the cycle of the news and how much? And now we have the internet. Used to, you didn't. It's just whatever was in your local papers, state papers, on national news. That's not the case now. Um, what can absolutely drive these crimes now is social media. And whatever the majority of the social media wants to go out there and they create this sense of hype and and which law enforcement can absolutely embrace it. And they did in this case. And it had great and it achieved great things in this case because they were able to go out there and find all the cameras and people reviewing and calling in, and they did canvassing. So um, the social media impact on a lot of these cases is going to be far greater and more important. And I think because right now, as a society, we are probably more aware of more crimes across the country than any time in history. And that's due to our social media, YouTube, web presence, creators. Because without this awareness, like I said, I think we're far more aware now than ever in the history of mankind.
And Josh the Posh, is it possible that the defense might try to muddy the comprehensive nature of Ellie's collection of evidence, like there's other cameras in the area they didn't capture?
Um, of course, there, we saw that with OJ, that no matter what CSI does or what law enforcement does, the defense is going to find an expert that is going to argue that no, that's not correct what they did, or that camera doesn't show what they say it shows, or the digital footprints, the cellular pings doesn't mean what they say it means. And so there's going to be um, uh, 180-degree opinions on a lot of things. Some things not so, but some things probably will be. But yes, the defense will try to muddy the water and go after that CSI because they have to.
And Josh, what tips do you have, Steve, for those who notice a joyrider or someone making rounds in the neighborhood, possibly casing but not doing anything illegal?
Of course, if you have a camera system, just timestamp it, make sure you're aware of it, call 911, and report suspicious activity because you only really, you know, uh, uh, after the damage is done and after the crime is committed, you can always look back and regret that. Oh man, I wish I'd called 911. Law enforcement, you know, uh, they're busy and they're heavily tasked, but it's their job and they're paid to take up that job and go out and investigate. And every now and then, they're able to go out and stop a criminal in before an act occurs. And so, absolutely, make sure that you call in any suspicious activities.
Okay. And then I got to know, was he still driving some patterns from November 14th forward?
Um, there's a lot of documentation, and I'm absolutely sure that regardless of what the FBI and everybody says about what involvement of being followed, tracked by who, how, from the time that whenever he became a suspect and was identified as a potential suspect, from that moment on, um, they've identified every pattern he took. Now they'll also go back even before they put that surveillance teams on him. And when did they put them on him? I don't know, but they'll be looking at his driving patterns, um, and which brings up a very good point that after the crimes occurred, did his driving patterns change? Did he quit taking those late night drives, or did he continue? And that'll make like I said, modern technologies, Big Brother can track a lot of things. And so they'll look at that and analyze that also. Did anything change in his life from after the crime?
And from Tequila at True Crime Web, has Brian been convicted? And do you think he hurt those girls?
My personal opinion, I don't. Uh, Convicted? No, he hasn't been convicted. He's to be assumed innocent, of course, by the court systems. But you know, law enforcement probable cause. Do I think the probable cause indicates that he's possibly the offender? Yes, uh, because that's what's within the probable cause. You don't arrest people just on a thought. You have to have probabilities, and the probable cause affidavit supports his arrest and that he's probably responsible for these. And so I go to the extent of what and support the probable cause affidavit.
And I gotta know
Yes.
$2. Oh, yeah. And that was the same question that
Yes.
they just asked before. So
Uh-huh.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
We appreciate it. And let's go down here to Love to Hunt. Do you think the prosecution have BK's full vehicles black box report?
There's several systems in some of those cars from the radio on that tracks vehicles. And I don't know what all he had on his vehicles, on what upgrades and what radio systems, on or off. Because when I did some research on that, some of those vehicles are tracked uh, because of certain apps and things that's within those systems. Um, if it's available, does law enforcement have them? Absolutely. And also the defense will have them. And because it's part of discovery. And there won't be any secrets between what the prosecution has and what the defense has. If it's exculpatory, absolutely the defense has to have it. Otherwise, it will be overturned.
Okay. And Love to Hunt. Do you think LE also did a full old school investigation before digital data came in?
I'm sure they did. You know, there's a lot to be said about some of the old school stuff, but the modern technologies too. I hope so, because uh, there's basics to investigations, that you always have to hunt for that key evidence and find the trace evidence, find every avenue, and go down every rabbit hole of because not only are we as law enforcement out there to find the offender, we're out there to find the right offender. And if you get the wrong offender and you put some innocent soul behind bars, you've done nothing other than enable a offender to go out and find more victims. And law enforcement doesn't want to do that. And it takes some of that old school thought process uh, and training to get to the base of some of these understandings of how to conduct a criminal investigation.
All right, blue light from Miss Karen Boardman.
You're the sweetest couple on
Oh,
YouTube. Thank
ain't
you.
that
Appreciate it.
sweet?
Mrs. Steve showed me a picture of the roses that she took
I did
that I bought her many, many years ago.
many years ago. All right, and from Pamela at True Crime Web, do you think his alibi will work against him?
I do. I absolutely do. I think that regardless, um, just by bringing up the fact that this may be his alibi, it's going to get the thought process and the juices flowing and the creativity of, oh, let's look at this. What does this mean? Where was he? And how often did he do this? Because, sometimes in these investigations, you get preoccupied and something may slip or you may not think of something. And then you're given a obstacle that you have to overcome. And when you overcome those obstacles, sometimes it can lead you into some key facts.
Okay. And Calamity Colleen, I wonder if they can tell the difference between a battery dying or the phone being shut down manually.
I think if they have the phone, absolutely. I don't know if they can do it from just the cellular information, but I believe if they have the phone, you're absolutely on target with that.
Okay, and this is hysterical. Josh the Posh, member for 9 months.
9 months, I'm almost out of the oven.
Almost.
Almost.
That is priceless. All right, so let me cruise here.
9 months. Oh man, that's a great message.
All right. Do you, as law enforcement, break up couples you find together in a lover's lane?
No, not all. Sometimes there's certain things that you may, when you find them, suspicious activities or otherwise, but you're there. I think, wasn't it in London, in the UK when, was it the Yorkshire Ripper that they identified from a lover's lane encounter? That's mostly why you're there in case if you have certain crimes or things that you patrol those areas for that. But that, no, everybody's entitled to enjoy life ever how they want to enjoy it, where they want to enjoy it, as long as it doesn't interfere with others.
This is priceless.
Uh-oh.
This is from Anna. Do they even have lovers' lanes anymore? Young people I know live together and stay home and do video games.
Well, even if you look at the most recent case with Stephen of Smith case in South Carolina, one of the places he left was it's a state park and boat ramp, and that's very similar to what we have. And so
they call that lover's lane?
No, but that's you'll have these meeting areas,
Okay.
and it's always been that it's not so much, but it's places where you can go and have certain encounters. But
Gotcha.
I guess the traditional old lovers lanes of the parking and listen to the radio is probably may have went out of style with the drive-in theaters.
Alrighty. All right.
How many of y'all know drive-in theaters?
Yes. All right. So you're done.
All righty, guys. I appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate all the support,
You gonna leave that
the
slide up?
donations. No, I'll find me something. We'll just go with that one. Everything that all the support we've had. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it, and y'all stay safe out there. And we'll see you soon. And we appreciate everybody for being here tonight and being so respectful. Y'all have a good night, guys.
All right. Love y'all. Take care. Thank you, mods.